Welcome to the Unbreakable podcast series, and I'm your host, Olivia Nunn, and today I've got a special treat. I am here with my very longtime friend, fellow Army veteran, Annette Whittenberger, who, gosh, we've known each other, I think, for as long as I've had a career in the Army, and so I cannot wait to dig in with you on this very special podcast episode on Unbreakable Storm. So, Annette, thank you for spending time with me today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you to do this.
Yay! I've been talking about this with you, and so we're finally here.
We are.
And, Unbreakable is about, hitting rock bottom and then being able to survive that storm, surviving whether it's the storm that takes you out or the fire, whatever analogy that you can kind of visualize and or reference, but somehow, some way, you survive it. You come to the top of that. And for you, you've had some storms that could have taken someone out, but you've been able to survive. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with your first storm.
Gosh, how far back are we going to go? I'll fast forward to when I was not selected for promotion. It was 2016 and I got passed over for Lieutenant Colonel and I was devastated. I think that's when everything just came crashing down, like childhood trauma, military trauma, everything hit that day because I was so good at putting on the mask of, I can do this. But when you are notified that this is how I felt, that I wasn't good enough to continue service, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm just not good enough for anything, right? And our whole career, even growing up in the 80s, you always kept things in-house. So you don't talk about anything. And so that moment just really hit me. And I was literally on the floor in the bathroom of the JRTC headquarters in Fort Polk, Louisiana, crying in the bathroom stall, like, what just happened? Not only that, normal retirements of 20 years and over, you get a whole year to transition. I had 6 months to get out. And so, they give you that piece of paper that says, thank you, blah, 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 blah. You can either continue service in the Guard or the reserves, or you could take the early retirement option. And I really contemplated that day, what was I going to do? I felt like a failure. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I had peers that told me, you're so lucky you get to retire early. I want to get out so bad. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as, I'm not good enough to continue to serve. So I went through all that hardship. I spent 6 months trying to figure out what I was going to do. I had a plan in my head. I was going to be a contractor, GS civilian. I was going to do all these things. And when the day came for the retirement ceremony, I didn't even go. I didn't even go because I couldn't face anybody. I grabbed that flag in the box that they gave me. I went into the parking lot and I cried. And I went home and I sulked. And I was often questioned, are you going to do a resume? You going to go to work? And I'm like, I can't do it. So I knew at that moment I had to do something because there was a day where I was on the floor in the corner of the house and I was done with life. I was done. And my friend from high school sat there on the phone and she said, Annette, you did the thing. You had a career in the Army. You are not a failure. You have kids. You have so much life ahead of you. And I knew when she mentioned my kids that I had to get up. I had to get up and I had to do something for my kids. because it wasn't all about me anymore. I was a mom,
Yeah.
I was a wife at that moment. And so I did what a lot of people do is I went to Facebook and I was just talking about my feelings because I needed an outlet. I needed a platform, and I was ridiculed and I was shamed. And I said, okay, I won't use Facebook. I'm going to create a website. Like, if you don't want to hear me here, you're going to hear me here. You're going to hear me on a bigger platform. You're going to hear, I'm going to shout from the rooftops that it's okay, that you can't let the uniform define you. You can't let corporate America define you. You can't let a piece of paper define who you are as a person, because that's all they see. They don't see you. They don't see the human side of you. They don't see you as a leader, as a mom, as a wife. They don't see all that. So I decided to create a wild ride called life at that time. And I, people often ask me where that name come from. And I don't know. I truly don't know. I believe in God. I have a really strong faith in, although I lost myself along the way a million times over, it was at that moment where it just came out of nowhere. And I was like, this is it. This is it, because it is. Anybody can relate to it. You don't have to be in the army. You could just be a normal human being on the streets. A wild ride called life is our journey that we are on. And so that's what I did. I just started the website and started using it as a platform. And then from then, I started a podcast. So I just started using every method possible that I could come up with to use my voice, but to show people that it's okay not to be okay, and the whole mental health stigma, and try to change that narrative. And so that was round one.
So I can relate with the first part in which you were talking about promotion. I really didn't talk about this. However, most people know that I retired out as a lieutenant colonel from the United States Army. And for those that aren't familiar, less than 1% of the officer corps make it to lieutenant colonel or O5. So it's a big deal to make it to O5. And I almost didn't make it. That's the actual truth. I don't really talk about it for the same exact reasons that you told us in your story. The shame, the guilt, the sense of being a loser. And here's the truth. We as officers go by year groups. And what I mean by that is the year group in which you commissioned. So I commissioned in the year of 2001. And when my year group went through the promotion list, Olivia Nunn was not on that list. I actually got passed over. So I was relooked in the following year, and I was at the top of the list of the following year. Because I was at the top of the list, I promoted fast at that list, which was right behind 2001. So when you look at it, it looked like I promoted with all my peers, but the truth was I was actually at the top of the following year group. And just like you talked about, the shame, the pity party, the I must suck, I must not be good enough, all the moments that you've ever doubted yourself in your career. I mean, I know why it happened. I know exactly what happened. There were some toxic leaders that derailed my career, and that's what happened, right? And that's a whole nother podcast series and conversation we could get into. However, but that's not what you think about. That's not what you analyze in that moment. You analyze how much, man, I must suck as a person, as an officer, as a leader, because I haven't been recognized. So I can totally relate. And I thought that was going to be the end of me. I was like, who would want me on their staff? Who would want to follow this officer? So I can understand. And yet that's just one of the storms that you go through. You know, life continues on, and you've been able to build such an amazing platform for others to be able to showcase their stories. You know, with the way you've written a book, you know, you are a mother, you were dual military, you were married to another military officer, you've talked about that story, and, you know, tell me about that. Tell me about this next storm, about how that life changes for you. That military life and that life being a wife is now different.
Yeah, that navigating divorce in a military community is so hard. When it first was brought to my attention that this was going to happen, I just sat there like, are you kidding me? Who am I? Because I spent so many years as a dual military. So at that moment, you know, I focused on being a soldier. I was a mom. I am a mom. I was a spouse, but I was a soldier first, because that's just how my mind was. It's not that my kids came second. It's just that the uniform was on every single day. And I, those were just givens, you know. Now I felt like, well, I'm not a military spouse anymore. Who am I? Again, it's the role, you know, it's a title. It's a blessing all wrapped up into one. But I felt so ashamed because, you know, 26 years is a long time with somebody. And when I supported him and I did the thing and I raised the kids, and I just felt like, why wasn't I good enough? Again, why wasn't I good enough? That piece of paper, that divorce decree, kind of just lays out everything that makes you question your worth all over again. But one of the saddest things I feel that I've encountered is in this space, when you talk about it, people say a divorce is a divorce. Military divorces are not just any other divorce. And that's what people fail to recognize. It's a whole different animal. It's a whole different way of navigating. What are your entitlements? What are your, what do you get to do next in life? No longer attached to the service member. And so I in the beginning, it was boohoo me, because I was like, well, I don't understand what just happened. I have to figure out what are the kids and I entitled to now? And so there's a whole plethora of things, right? But it is just like mental health. Divorce is another stigma out there. People don't like to talk about it, which I understand why, but it's not an ugly word, you know, because people live through it and people lose their lives from it, because it takes a toll on a person where you feel like you are not worthy anymore. You're not good enough anymore. You're not a part of this community anymore. And so it just sucks. And the things that I've learned is that there are policies that need to be changed. And I have reached out to congressmen, and I'm still working on it. It's just that I had to take a break because the divorce took me out. It physically took me out to where I was sick for 10 days because I just could not handle feeling so alone and so lost and confused. I had to be reminded that I have survived other things and I could survive this. So funny thing is this was in March 29th is when it was finalized, and we are in September. I am not where I was then, because for some reason or another, it could be God, it really could be, one day this sense of peace came over me that made me realize I am still worthy. I am still made for more. I have work to do. And one of the things that also made me realize that I have a purpose and nobody knows about all over social media, is that I mentor other military spouses.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
You do. And, so much of what you just said about divorce, it changes you. It alters who you are, just like leaving the military. Whether you are ETSing or retiring from the military, it is a change of who you are. Because for so long, that was your identity, whether it was an identity of being a soldier or the identity of being a Mrs. And that is no longer your identity, and coming to grips with that. It is mental health in so many ways, but also you're right. There's such this negative perception and stigma around divorce. It's almost as if you have like this disease. Like, you say the word, I'm divorced. It's like, ew, I don't want to touch you. It's as if you've got like this booger on you or something, right? And the sad part is, why do we treat people like that? And I do know part of it is from a religious standpoint. You talk about faith, right? A follower of Christ, being a Christian person myself, I do know why, from that perspective, divorce is something that we don't like to talk about, that we don't want divorce to happen, right? You shouldn't divorce. There's only one time that you should really be divorcing, right? But regardless of why someone divorces, I think what people forget at the end of the day is that what is God's first commandment to us, right? To love, right? To love. And I think we forget to do that. We forget that we are people and we're flawed by nature, and that we just need to be kind and we need to love each other. And that is, I think, incredibly hard for some people, unfortunately. And it's much like you said, it's been a journey coming out of being divorced. So you've had these, couple whammies, right? It kind of reminds me of that game in the 80s, wham, whammy, whack that, whack that mole, right? So you've had to work through leaving the Army, and that's an identity piece. That's mental health there. And now you've gone through this divorce and reclaiming who Annette is, right? Living this life that you want and rewriting that story. So talk to me about being a business owner, an advocate. And I think I forgot to mention at the beginning of this podcast why we know each other. We know each other because we did the same thing in the Army, which was chemical. That's a mouthful, everybody. We were chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, CBRN officers. And we used to do this thing called the Unit Status Report, the USR report for our units. That's how we know each other. Back in 4th Infantry Division at Fort Hood, Texas. So that's kind of our thing. But we also have a background in communications and networking and storytelling and being advocates. So tell me about that. Tell me about that part of your life and where that storm comes in. And then we're going to get into the nuggets of how you come out of the storm and how you are being beautiful and still standing.
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. I have said that 100 times. It is not.
There were days last month where I said, I would rather be in uniform right now than do this. Because I would rather go back in the Army right now than do this, because it is hard. It is so hard. But what I've told myself the past few years is always do what sets your soul on fire. Always. It doesn't matter what it is. Go after that, because that's what's going to keep us up in the morning, or not keep us up in the morning. That is what's going to help wake us up each day. Like, why are we doing this? Because if it's for the money, it's not.
I would like to know where that money is right now.
I want to know. I want to know where it is, and I think that's why it's so hard for both you and I, is because our heart is so big. We love so hard. We want to help so many people. We just want to help. So how do we make money from it? And it just doesn't, It doesn't work like that. And I think my drive and my passion is with those that are hurting like I did. How can I help you get out of this? Because I know how it feels and it sucks so bad. But there are days where I was like, F all of this. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done with it. But then you get one person, one reminder, one something that smacks you in the face, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And you're like, okay, all right. I get it. This is why I keep coming back. But one of the things I feel is most difficult is when you're trying to keep your authenticity and your vision and it doesn't align with others. And it's so hard to stand firm in that. And not everybody will agree with you. You know, you're going to have these rifts and you're going to have arguments and you're going to have all these things. So how do you continue to stay in your faith and your place and continue to be you trying to build a business? And that's one of the things that a lot of roadblocks that I've come across. And I just have to go back to, why am I doing this?
You know, you saying that, you know, we've had a lot of discussion, whether it's telephone calls, Facebook messages, text messages, or Instagram messages. We've had a ton of conversations about that, about who is for you and who is not for you. And yes, you want people for you, right? That warms your heart. And honestly, for me, it's not so much that it warms my heart. It's actually kind of unbelievable sometimes. Like I'm just like, really? Somebody like wants to follow me and they like my stuff. Like I like, it's like, this is so cool. Like I'm still kind of like, wow, somebody likes to listen to me. This is kind of cool, right? I'm still just kind of like, you know, in awe of that. But I think what breaks my heart is that you find out people aren't for you. That's the part that I have a hard time reconciling with. And that's something that I have a hard time reconciling with on a daily basis. And I think the reason why I have such a hard time reconciling with that is because I look at other people and say, like, okay, you're not my cup of tea, so I won't necessarily follow you or like you or take your cup of wisdom, but I don't say anything about you. It's just like, okay, you're just not my thing. I wish you well. And it just boggles my mind that I may not be your cup of tea, but yet people say things about me. And it comes back to me. And I think that's the hard part that I struggle with, that people are not for you. And they'd rather watch you to fail instead of succeeding.
No, you're right about that. And you know, I've been in mean girl situations. I will never say I'm perfect. I won't ever. I will always share my side of the story because I've made mistakes, you know, and I've owned up to it. So it's just very difficult when you're put in situations where you're like, oh man, I'd rather keep my sanity than have to deal with that anymore. And that's a hard part in business, right? You want it so bad, but if it doesn't align with your beliefs and you have to change who you are, then that's not for you. And it's okay. In the beginning, it's not, because you're trying to fix everything. How do I make this better? How do I fix it? How do I do this? But there's a moment in time where you have to say, okay, you know what? This isn't it. I tried so hard, but you have to walk away. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But I think the older I get, the more I realize I don't need 1,000 friends that are not really standing up for me. I need 5. I'll just say those 5 that will protect me in rooms that I'm not in. You know, because I think that's where I'm trying to find value now, is if you will protect me in rooms that I'm not in, then that's what matters right now, because it's no longer about having all these followers, because those followers don't know you. We need people that are with us no matter what, through all my flaws, through all my mistakes, through all my bitch sessions and crying sessions. Are you still there? No matter what I decide.
100%, which goes back to mental health, which is a huge topic that we talk about in terms of the advocacy that we believe in. I've said this numerous times. Where is the resource when you're literally and figuratively standing at the edge and or the gun is pointed at your head? And in those moments, you have to also know who are the friends that you can call because they've got your back. And I know people are well intended and well meaningful and they want to help. I know that. That's for the biggest reasons why most people serve, right? They want to serve and help. I think where I struggle the most is that, I did ask for help. And it was just silence. And that's hard.
And I think that's why I'm so loud. I heal out loud. I will not heal silently anymore, because if I can heal out loud and someone can see me do it, then maybe they can do it too. It's just, we need people that are going to be there for us no matter what. And unfortunately, even as adults, it just doesn't happen that way. And it's so hard. It's so lonely at the top or in the middle, wherever we are. It's so lonely when we are transitioning or when we're going through a divorce or when we're having problems with entrepreneurship. It is so lonely. And it's funny because I have people say, you know so many people. It doesn't matter that I know so many people. It's who are those people that are with me? Because at the end of the day, are they still there? When I stop doing this thing, who's going to still be there? And unfortunately, we find out the hard way sometimes.
Right. So talk to me, Annette. This is just, oh, by the way, for our listeners, just a tip of some of the storms you've gone through. We could spend hours talking about some of the other ones, but we won't go there. Maybe I'll bring you on for another session. However, but let's give the listeners some nuggets of wisdom for you to get through, just these couple of storms that you've gone through in your life. How have you been able to come through that storm, to rise to the top, to be able to get to that top of the mountain, to get to the next phase, to be able to go through your journey? What were you able to use, whether it was a resource or a person? What was it for you?
My people. I'm going to start crying. My people. Like there are, whether you and I share memes or inspirational quotes, I don't think people really understand what a huge difference that makes. We don't have to say words, you and I, all the time. We could just send something, and you never know what that does for somebody, And so if I didn't have my people who reminded me that I still mattered, or that what I'm doing is making a difference, or never stop using your voice, you never know who's listening, those little things, or my son who says, Mom, I'm proud of you, or my daughter who says, just keep going and try to help other people. I know you're hurting, Mom, but you can help people through it. That's the kind of shit that makes the biggest difference in the world. It doesn't matter who follows me next. It's that core group that just reminds me that I still have more to tell, more to share, more things to do.
I love the fact that it's so simple, right?
Yeah.
I feel that people sometimes get caught up in the grandiose of things instead of the simpleness of things. Kind of like gift giving, right? That I think people think that gift giving, whether it's an actual gift for their friend or their partner or their loved one, or it's gift giving to like an organization. And oh, by the way, if you are into charity giving and would like to know where to give charity giving, I could give you a long list. But they think it's like, it's got to be like this, $1 million check, or this like, fancy house, or this brand new car. When in fact, most of the time, the gift is not that at all. The gift is you, your time, your effort, your presence is the gift. So it's your time that you give to the person, simply checking on you, being there for you. The time that you give them by picking up the phone and saying, I'm checking on you, making sure you're okay. Let's grab a cup of coffee. Hey, I know you're BSing me right now. I know you're not okay. And by the way, it's okay to not be okay. I want to make sure that you know that I love you. You are meant to be here, and you would be missed if you weren't. It's that simpleness of it all is what we should do. And I think oftentimes we forget to do that.
And you're absolutely right. There's just too much going on in the world. We don't have time for competition. Who's better than who? Who's prettier than who? Who's doing more than who? We forget those little things of saying, hey, I see you. You're doing great. You're doing so great. You look so good. I love your picture. Whatever the case is, it's those little things that just you don't even know. I mean, I do that to my son. When he's having a hard time, I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I know life is hard right now, but I'm so proud of you because you're still doing it. Those little words make such a huge difference. Do it all the time because I know how it feels for me. Life sucks. It's hard. I want to know what God's plan is because I'm like running out of patience. But in the meantime, my people that have been there through the hardest of storms, that's who I know is there no matter what I do. No matter, I could quit all this stuff, but I know they're going to be like, you know what? You do you, boo. Do whatever you want. That's what we need.
So for our listeners, what makes you unbreakable?
Knowing that I survived some of the things I didn't talk about here because I shouldn't have survived it. So I know my story isn't over yet. I got shit to do. And I assume I'm going to figure out how to do it. It might not be the greatest way, but it's my way. And I'm not in a rush to do it. So maybe I'll be 60 when I fully accomplish it. But whatever, along the way, my people are with me, and that's I think that's what matters. So I survived some shit, and it's okay. I'm still here.
I heard this quote the other day, and I thought it made such sense. Because I've talked about how, I think we've heard, Will Smith quoted about how everything's on the other side of fear. And I've said that before, and I've often referenced that quote, but I heard actually a better quote that when I heard it, I was like, ooh, I think I'll actually use this more than everything's on the other side of fear. Freedom begins where fear ends. And to me, when I heard that and I kind of sat with that, I was like, that is so true. When you let go the hurt, when you let go of the anger, when you let go of what you are concerned about, what other people think or feel about towards you, because that's fear, right? That's the reason why you're doing those things is because it's fear driving those things. When you let go, it's freedom. It's freedom for you. It's freedom for you to design, chase, and honor the parts of you that was once lost, that you can find. You're honoring the parts of you to be able to chase and build who you want to become, who you're going to manifest. Because I've always said that transition leads to transformation. And that's how you are the unbreakable storm.
Thank you for that. That is so great. I like that. And yeah, we should use that more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Annette, I could spend hours talking to you because, actually sometimes we do that. We can get lost in our conversations. But thank you so much for just being your authentic self with me today and just showing up, just telling us just a little bit of some of the storms you've gone through. I mean, because you're such a dear friend of mine, I know the other ones that you have not yet to share. But I just know that the work that you're doing for our military community is vitally needed, and you are loved, and just keep being you. Keep shining the light so that others can follow.
Thank you. And you too. You too. We both have stuff to do, so it's not over yet.
I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Unbreakable Storm. Be sure to continue to follow Unbreakable Storm wherever you listen in your podcast journey.